Hello and welcome to Daddy Issues, presented by Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. And this is a podcast of conversations with dads. I'm Jason Acquisto. I'm joined by my co-host, Larry Smith, President and CEO of Fathers and Families Center. Larry, happy holidays. How's everything going?
Same to you, Jason. Things are going very well. Hectic like everybody else at this time of year, but on balance, pretty well.
Good. I appreciate the chance to sit down during this time of year, the hustle and the bustle. Obviously, we're all kind of focusing on our families. And, as we move ahead to episode 2 here of Daddy Issues, we want to dive into a topic or an issue that a lot of people deal with that, hey, it can be challenging. It's co-parenting. Or I've heard some people call it joint parenting or shared parenting. Raising children as a single parent when separation or divorce occurs and both parents cooperating to accomplish the same goal when you don't live together.
Right. And I think it's crucial. I mean, when you consider that 50% of marriages thereabouts end in divorce, co-parenting is something that is very common. And of course, there are a lot of different flavors, if you will. Not every parent is as involved as he or she should be. We often assume it's the father who is not as involved in those cases, but that's not always true. But I guess the first thing I'd say is that the co is important, and that means together with, as in cooperation, collaboration. That prefix is very, very important, and it's great when two people who are responsible adults who put the child or the children first. That's the key.
Yeah, for sure. And even the best intentions of that, I'm sure that most people do have the best of intentions and set out to do exactly what you said, just to not let their own issues get in the way, but to realize that the children or the child comes first. But it's not always easy, even if you want to. I know that it requires a huge amount of empathy and patience and a different set of skills, I would imagine, than just being two parents in the same household.
Well, I think the first thing, and you said an important word, which is empathy, and that's incredibly important. Divorce or otherwise separation, if the parents were never married, is a difficult thing on everyone involved. Certainly the two individuals, but then the child or children as well. And you need to have empathy for the other person, knowing that he or she is going through something difficult. Secondly, a willingness or a spirit to collaborate, to be responsive to each other's needs and so I won't be repetitive. I'll just say that the child's needs, to be responsive to both of your needs and then the child's needs. And what we see at Fathers and Families Center is a situation in which a lot of the dads are in very difficult situations, whether it is economically. A lot of them are returning citizens who have had interaction, unfortunately, with the criminal legal system. And so that requires a sort of a different level of patience and understanding and empathy on the part of their partner. But fortunately, we have classes where we talk about that. We teach about relationship skills and so on. But at the end of the day, you can have all the training you want. You can read all the books you want. You can watch all the videos and all of that. But unless there is a sincere desire to subordinate yourself, your needs, your desires, your anger, frankly, your hurt, then it's not going to work because, at the end of the day, you really have to put the child first.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough one. I mean, a relationship with the other parent of your child, it's tough to not use that child, I would guess, as leverage or as a tool to kind of, obviously you don't want to try to, get back at the other parent through, don't punish your ex by allowing your child to get out of responsibility or say like, well, daddy doesn't let you do this, but I'll let you do it just to score points. And that has got to be one of the biggest challenges in being a co-parent.
Oh, absolutely. And children are not bargaining chips. And, to your point, they should not be used as leverage or to get back at the other parent. But the other thing is children are they have a very high emotional intelligence, and they are, fully aware, certainly sometimes more so than we think. They are aware of the dynamic between the two parents, and they will sometimes try to use that to play parents against off against each other and so on. And so, I'm very, very blessed with my ex-wife. We have been divorced now for 10 years, and we co-parent very, very effectively. And I know that that is not always the case. So again, feel very blessed for that. But, we have a set schedule. We share custody 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off. In 10 years, we have not had a single argument about, well, this is my time, this is your time. We build in flexibility. We both have families who want to see the children. They have busy schedules as well. And so we really go out of our way to try to accommodate each other.
So what are the ages of the children that you share and co-parent?
17 and 15. Our daughter is a senior in high school at 17. Our son is 15 and is a sophomore.
So that's from preteen age up through late teenage years. You've shared custody, and you've done a good job to balance that out and be successful co-parents. Not that you've been perfect, but what you said, it seems like it's because of effort on both sides, a commitment from both sides to say, we're going to do this because the kids are that important.
Absolutely. We agreed immediately that we have to communicate to the kids that we love them, that they come first. And also, it goes without saying, but I should say it, that, we communicated to the children that the divorce was not their fault. Kids can internalize that and sometimes inadvertently think that they are at fault. And so parents really need to be on guard to ensure that their kids know that, no, you are not at fault. Mom and dad, it just didn't work out, has nothing to do with you two, and to emphasize again and again that we both still love each other. And it's not a competition. It is a collaboration. It is cooperation.
You're listening to Daddy Issues. We'll be right back.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Your day moves fast. Your news should too. That's why there's a new and improved Wish TV app, bringing you more local news, breaking alerts, live streaming, weather forecasts, radar, and Indiana sports, all in one place. Customize your news feed to see the stories that matter most to you and get the information you need when you need it. Download the new and improved Wish TV app today on iOS or Android and take News 8 with you everywhere.
And now back to Daddy Issues. Is it important to normalize divorce and to say that it's not even necessarily a failure? It's just that some people are not meant to be married together, but they still can be parents together.
Yeah, I think it's an individual situation. I mean, clearly, in some cases, the two people probably should not have gotten together in the first place. I don't think that was my situation. Frankly, we just didn't work out. But we were not two people who should never have been together. So right. I think that it really is an individual kind of thing. But regardless of how you got together, or frankly how you drifted apart, making sure, I always go back to my late grandmother, who said that no child ever asked to come into the world. I never ever forgot that.
Yeah, that's true, and I've said that myself. I didn't ask to be born, but it's true, and we didn't pick our own situation either, right?
Right.
And that's so true. It's easier said than done to make sure that the child doesn't feel like, well, was it because of me that you didn't work out? But and I don't want to necessarily say normalize, but to make sure that they don't feel like it's one term I always hated was the broken home. Oh, they're a product of a broken home.
Yeah. Right.
Because I grew up in a single parent family, and I never felt like my home was broken. Okay. So just because it's a single parent home doesn't mean that the home is broken. That's an awfully brutal thing to live with as a child and to feel like, did I break? Is that my fault?
It is, and every time I hear that phrase, I always go back to the old Eddie Murphy movie Trading Places, where the Duke brothers ask Billy Ray Valentine if he came from a broken home, and his response was, "Yeah, it was broke. So what?" So I will never forget that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're right. Pastor Jeffrey A. Johnson says that one is a whole number. Obviously, we know that mathematically speaking, but he's also talking spiritually, and there are some great single parents out there, men and women, who did a good job. Again, my parents were divorced when I was very, very young, and my mother did remarry and so on. But many days growing up, I spent without my father in the home or in my life, frankly, for
Right.
that matter. And so when my ex-wife and I got divorced, my key focus was on being present in my children's lives. So just because we weren't under the same roof all the time, I just wanted to make sure that they did not suffer and wonder if their dad was gonna be in their life.
Yeah. So this is Daddy Issues. We're talking with Larry Smith, the president and CEO of the Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis. And I'm Jason Acquisto. We're talking about the topic of co-parenting. It's not easy. It looks different with different people. Everyone's situation is different. And I would imagine that it's tempting for children in a situation of co-parenting to frequently test boundaries and rules, especially if there's a chance to get something to say, to scheme, and kids are smart. Well, if I play this one against that one, I can get what I want. And is that an opportunity to exercise the unified front among the two parents?
Oh, absolutely. And early on, we did have a couple of those issues, but we communicated. My ex-wife and I communicated well to always to make sure did one say this or did the other say that, and did you say this or did you say that? And I think for us at least it was easy because once the kids figured out, and that was very early on, that they couldn't do that, that they couldn't pit us against each other. And kids do that, by the way, even if their parents are together. They do that.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah.
And it's a part of being a kid, testing boundaries and so on, and that's fine. I mean, but yeah, as long as again, to use your phrase, we present united front, then it's all good.
How important is this? I've heard people say this, and it makes sense. Is it important to be committed to positive talk around the house, especially regarding the other co-parent?
Oh, I think it's crucial. I mean, I really, really do. My kids have never heard me say anything negative about their mother. Frankly, there isn't a whole lot negative to say, but
Yeah.
they never have, and that was just a commitment that I made. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that she did the same because I'd never detected any of that from them, and so yeah, I mean, again, doesn't mean that you don't have hurt feelings of disappointment or whatever, any number of things that aren't pleasant, but you don't subject your children to that, and that's a level of commitment, but also emotional maturity, and it's just a decision that you have to make. Sometimes you have to remind yourself of it if you're having some tough negotiations on divorce or alimony or whatever the case may be, or custody or whatever, but you just cannot let that color your relationship with your children, whatever the issues are that you're going through with your ex partner. Those are temporary. Your relationship with your kids is permanent.
Yeah, that's a great point too. You can become unmarried to the person, or to not be, not cohabitate with them, but you can't not become the parent of the child that lasts forever. And so that's the critical part there. So I also was thinking about the consistency of things. And there's a cliche that goes around. You can go to the park and see a bunch of Sunday fathers hanging around with their kids or whatever, and it's like, oh, look at that must be look how fun that dad is trying to make that Sunday with his kids because that's his only
Right.
chance. I would imagine that children also need some boring time and just some ordinary things, some household things, just to keep those guardrails of stability, of like not everything's a party, and not just fathers. I imagine that both
Hmm.
co-parents also want to maximize their time. And is that tempting? And I'm asking you, as a co-parent, do you ever think like, man, I got to really be on today, the kids are with me, we got to really light it up?
Yeah, that's a great question early on, especially because my kids were so young when we got divorced. It was like, okay, fun time. It's, ice cream and, rainbows and lollipops and all that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But then there's, the dose of reality as well. We've got chores to do. We've got, life lessons. We've got homework. Dad has to work for a living. I'm not, I'm not independently wealthy, so got to
Yeah,
go to work
okay.
for a living.
Yeah.
And then as they get older, they've got activities and so on. So yeah, it's not all fun and games.
Yeah, because the things that I remember about growing up, and you might agree that the things I remember are the mundane, like the just the dinner time and the sitting around, that's the being in the house, and the routine of when things happen and how they happened. That's what I think back on my childhood being. The fun times, yes, going to amusement parks and birthday parties, but it's the little things that really give
Right.
me this stability looking back. Um, so that's important, I would
Yeah.
imagine. I know, Larry, you've got a lot of experience in that. And that brings me to the Fathers and Families Center. Can you talk a little
Hmm.
bit more about what you do, and then specifically maybe about how these kinds of needs are addressed? I know that there is a full program for
Hmm.
helping and mentoring and training men to be the best fathers they can be. How do you serve with co-parenting, and what needs do you meet there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we address what we call the four P's: the person, the parent, the partner, the provider. When it comes to the parent, and again, in most cases, though not all, it's a co-parenting situation, and we do talk about. Well, first of all, there are issues sort of practically that sometimes need to be worked out. Again, we deal with a lot of returning citizens, people who are coming back from being incarcerated, and so they have some very practical issues that they need to deal with. Sometimes expungement, getting caught up on child support, those kinds of things that are very, very practical, but also very necessary. And so we help them through that. But when it comes to the relationship, we take them through training that emphasizes that even if you're no longer intimately involved with your children's mother, it is really your responsibility to put the child first. And then, of course, that leads into being gainfully employed and those kinds of things. But when we talk about addressing the person first before the parent, that is, a lot of these men, most of these men, have some kind of trauma, either from childhood that has continued into adulthood. And so, you can't really address the parent until you address the person. And so we spend a lot of time doing exactly that. And then finally, we move on to, okay, now that you're a parent, you're also a partner. And how does that look? Have you worked out custody, or did a court do so? And of course, from my perspective, it's important, irrespective of what the court say. I mean, the court can order your time and those other things, but the court can't order you to get along, right? And so whatever the court says in terms of custody, that's the bottom. That's the easy thing. It's how do you relate to each other, and so we help them deal with some of the unresolved emotional challenges that they have, so then that they can deal better with rebuilding, restoring, repairing their relationship with their children and their children's mother.
This is Daddy Issues. We'll be right back after this short break.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
And now, let's get back to Daddy Issues. And it's so encouraging. The one part that jumped out at me is working on the person, because I'm a
Yeah.
believer in therapy. I believe we all can benefit from that, and that there's a lot to be gained from understanding how we got to be the way we are, what motivates us, what happens in our subconscious, and all of those things. They go into the motivations for how we live. And so understanding how we were parented makes us better
Hmm.
parents. We can correct toxic behavior. We can heal wounds, and we can move
Right.
on.
Yeah, so we have a couple of partnerships with healthcare organizations that deal not only with physical health but with mental and emotional health as well. Because that's not something that we take lightly. It's not just sitting down talking with a good friend or whatever. Which is not to say that that is never helpful, because it is. But we also believe in the importance of connecting our clients to mental health professionals who can help them
Mhm.
deal with some of the challenges they have.
So important, so important and critical, because I mean, it's like the blind leading the blind. If we don't heal our own issues, and self included, because we all have baggage and ways that we experience things in our past that we need to improve upon, or to do better, and just to be better than maybe the way we experienced it. So it's all in the interest of making men better fathers, and that's what this is: daddy issues. So you know, there's nothing more important than being a good parent, and co-parenting can be a challenge. What are some of the what are some of the pitfalls, or what are some of the, like, just bullet point things? Hey, don't do this. Hey, don't do that. What are the first few things that come to your mind? Like, make sure you communicate. Talk about a couple
Yeah.
of those.
Well, I think you nailed it, right? Certainly, the first is communication, because again, you can set up these schedules and do things of that nature. But if something comes up, as it invariably it does, and when I'm saying, for example, if it's, for example, not your time to be with your child, but something comes up, a parent has to work, has a sick relative, has to go out of town, whatever the case may be. So communicate. Be flexible. That's important. And again, that's true regardless of whether the parents are together or apart. You have to be flexible. Don't again put self first, right? And I like to do these sort of in a positive way, right? So keep the child first. Be flexible. Be proactive. Communicate. Be patient. Be empathetic. All of those things that apply basically to all relationships, whether it's an intimate partnership, a work relationship, a mentor-mentee relationship, siblings. Also applies to people who are co-parenting.
So you've co-parented two of your children
Hmm.
from a young age up through high school age, and they are now in high school, older teenagers. And
Hmm.
I imagine that you've become a little more comfortable with talking about, or if maybe it doesn't come up, have they ever asked, "Hey, why did you get divorced?" Or, just to be honest, they're almost like talking to another adult now, right? And then it's like, how do you navigate that boundary? And is that easy?
It that's a tough one. So I will tell you that for me, my kids know exactly what happened. I was very very honest with him, and I also should mention I do have an older daughter. She's an adult, but with my two teens, yes, they're fully aware. I certainly gave them my perspective. I'm sure that their mother has given them her perspective. But my kids are mature. They could handle it. Didn't make it easier, or didn't make it easy,
Mhm.
but it made
Right.
made it easier than it might otherwise have been. And they were inquisitive. And then, again, I mentioned earlier the importance of helping them to understand it wasn't their fault. I was stunned. I was crushed when I learned that both of them, to one degree or another, thought that the divorce was their fault. And I thought I had done a good job of communicating it. And then I realized, no, I just kind of ignored it because it never
Mm.
occurred to me that they needed to hear that. But they affirmatively need to hear this is not your fault. And I tell you, that was hard to hear that they thought that. And so I
Sure.
really, really emphasized to them that no, that wasn't the case.
So yeah, make no assumptions that, oh, I'm sure they know that.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
and
no,
that
no,
can
no.
be, yeah, that can be true of everything with parenting. I imagine that, oh, they know I love them, or they know. Man, there's nothing that I ever assume anymore. I've got a 19-year-old son, and so I just come out and say it. So that's the comfort zone for us. But yeah, and it can be different for different people. But you're just making sure, if I hear you right, you're saying make sure that nothing is assumed because, hey, you were being a good dad, a good co-parent, but still there was this. How could they not feel like that it was a shared guilt on their part? So be
Absolutely.
proactive.
Be
Yeah.
proactive. Let the kids know that divorce is not their fault. It is not their fault.
Not their fault, and also not broken, and not a situation that makes them less than anything else, and their family is not any less valid or any there are so many different shapes and colors and sizes of families in the year 2023 almost, that there is absolutely no normal way of doing things, and that word shouldn't even exist, I don't think.
Right. Yep.
Because yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
good.
the again, back to the stat, 50% of marriages in divorce. Unfortunately, the kids are in company with other kids who
Yeah.
are going through the same thing, or some similar situations. And so, yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's not ideal at all, but it's just a reality that a lot of kids have to deal with.
It's a reality. Yeah, that's life. So we are people. We're not perfect, and that's just one of the things that happens. And our kids need to be reassured and told that it's not their fault. At least that, and of course, to put them first in the relationship as we co-parent. So, where can we get more information, Larry, about Fathers and Family Center and some of the resources you have for men wanting to be better fathers?
Yeah, so it's www.fathersandfamiliescenter.org, fathersandfamiliescenter.org. All those are written out. It's the word "and," not the ampersand. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so you can go on our website. There's also resources, the National Fatherhood Center, 24/7 Dad, a couple of other resources that we would recommend.
Okay, great. You can also send us an email, dads@thedaddyissuespodcast.com, and get in touch. Tell us that you're listening, and we'd love to connect with anybody who has thoughts and wants to share their experience with us. So again, it's Daddy Issues. Larry, if I don't talk to you again, then my friend, have a great Christmas with you and the family.
You as well, my friend, and I appreciate it, and talk with you soon.
Larry, take care. This is Daddy Issues. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, take care, everybody.